Okay, let's call the meeting to order at 5:01 PM.
Good deal.
John, take roll call, please.
Okay, Joe Plankus,
Here.
Doug Holtz,
Here.
Jill Doyle,
Here.
Bob Beaudry.
He's in a traffic jam.
Oh, that's right, you said that. Linda Noss.
Here,
Okay, we have a
Okay.
quorum.
Yes.
Thank you, John. First, there are a couple changes to the evening's agenda. Union Street Developer Agreement will be postponed, and we'll tentatively schedule it, if the commission agrees, for a special meeting on the 7th, which is when we really need to talk about voting on the tree park agreements. Also, tonight will be obviously a detailed discussion of those RFPs. So again, we'll determine if everybody's okay with the meeting on the 7th. Let me just take maybe a voice vote now. Are the commission members okay with having a special meeting on the 7th of March?
I'll be out of town.
Okay. Doug, are you okay with the 7th?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'm okay with the 7th. Linda?
what do we have to do by the 7th?
I'm sorry?
What do we have to do by the
We have
7th?
to vote on the 7th on the tree park agreement. Tonight's only for discussion.
Okay,
Because we have to have a 10-day notice of the
notice,
meeting. to
okay,
vote.
so that doesn't have anything to do with Union Street, it's just the tree park on the 7th?
No, we also will move the discussion or the vote on the developer agreement for Union Square back to the 7th also. They're not ready tonight.
Okay,
So we
okay,
would have two items on that agenda.
okay, I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, oh, that's fine.
Two.
Are you okay with the 7th then?
Yes,
The meeting time, okay, and then we'll check with Bob when Bob gets into the meeting here. He's stuck in traffic, unfortunately, at this time. Okay, so we've got the agenda modified. Let's look at the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the meeting minutes for January 18th of the Westfield Redevelopment Commission. Are there any comments, changes on that agreement? Oh, Mike Steele, are you online by chance? Evidently not. Mike Steele, are you online? Chris, can you check? Is he online?
Who?
Mike Steele, he's our school board assignee to the commission?
Nope, it looks like Doug Holtz and William Knox and myself are the only ones that are online.
Okay, fine, thank you. Okay, any comments or discussion on the minutes for the meeting held on January 18th? Okay, hearing none, if I have a motion for approval of the minutes for the meeting of the 18th.
So moved.
Jill Doyle, motion.
I'll second, Linda Nass.
Second by Linda Nass. All in favor, please vote. Aye. John, if you'll take the roll, please.
Sure. Linda Nass,
Aye,
Bob Beaudry, Jill Doyle,
Aye.
Doug Holtz,
Aye.
Joe Plankus.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda are the
are we not,
minutes for the...
are we not doing the 25th minutes?
Yes, that's next.
Oh, sorry, okay, I didn't see it in here.
We have minutes for the meeting, special meeting that we held on January 25th. Any questions or changes or comments on that particular meeting? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the minutes for the meeting of January 25th?
Linda Nass, so moved.
Okay, motion by Linda, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jill Doyle. All in favor, please vote aye. John, please take the roll.
Joe Plankus,
Here, present. Yeah. Let's try it again. Aye.
oh boy, that was awesome. Doug Holtz,
Aye.
Jill Doyle,
Aye.
Bob Beaudry, Linda Noss.
Aye,
I think you're set.
Now that the comedy act is done, we'll move on to
Yeah.
the next item. Next item is approval of claims. Has everyone had a chance to review the claims? Are basically one from O.W. Crone for a number of different tasks that they perform. Do we have any questions, comments on those claims? If not, I'm open for a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Jill Doyle. Do I have a second?
This is
Joe
Doug,
Plankus?
second.
Okay, I will credit Doug Holtz, we got in there first for a second.
Okay.
All in favor of approving the claims as submitted, please signify by saying aye. John?
Joe Plankus.
Aye.
You see I hesitated. Doug Holtz.
Aye.
Jill Doyle.
Aye.
Bob Bodray. Linda Nuss.
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved. Moving on to the next item, ratification of current Grand Park user agreements. Matt?
Good evening, Commission members. Matt Trinian, Director of Grand Park. Before you is the most recent update to the contracts that were signed over the course of the last month or so. All of them, I believe, are all use agreements and pretty much nothing out of the ordinary from our standpoint, but happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Okay. I'll just make a comment, Matt. To me, those agreements are boilerplate. I mean, it's a set form. The only thing different is who the organization is and what the rates are, and for how many hours they are using the fields. In my mind, I think if you highlight when you submit those to the RDC each month, if you could highlight any where there's something special, like you had the University of Georgia here, that's a special one that wasn't obviously in anyone's plans. I think if you submit a few comments, or if there was some kind of special deal for whatever reason, expound on that. But I think from the standpoint of, I've looked at those agreements. I'm not going to take my time, quite frankly. I think it's a waste of my time, honestly, commission members' time to look at each single individual agreement where someone is just filling in the blanks and putting in some numbers. But it is for transparency, so we will continue to have those published, and we'll just need to link it to this week's agenda. It's 6 meg, so it's a huge.
Yeah, Sarah did that.
Sarah
She-
did
she
that,
got
okay,
that.
fine.
She's-
This
She
is
just
one
sent
I
it over
printed out
this
earlier
afternoon.
today
Yeah, she
before
finally
that
got
was
it
done,
working.
John. Okay, great. So
Yeah.
we'll continue to make it a public document that people can see, but I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on it unless there's some exceptional items for whatever the reason is.
I will certainly note that, and obviously we'll,
I think that would speed the process up, man.
absolutely, no problem.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, do I have a motion for
I just
approval
had
of
one
the
question.
current agreement? Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I just have one question. On one of those agreements, you had marked it unpaid, and we don't usually see that. Does that tickle you to go back and look at that?
Can you help me understand which one maybe? I'm
It
sorry.
was one of the first ones.
Yeah, there's several out
Like
there.
the First, there was only one that was marked like that, unpaid on each line, and I thought, does that
It may have been one that was
trip something?
later signed, so we may have sent the agreement at a certain date, and we were getting closer to where the event was actually happening.
Okay.
And the document wasn't signed until that point, at which point we would have denoted that it was unpaid.
Okay.
And then we would have gone to, at the point of contract, pay for every installment that was passed at that point. That may have been the circumstance.
First time I'd ever seen that, so I was
Sure.
asking. So, yeah, we had 39 documents, 285 pages.
Quite a few.
Good.
Yep.
6 meg, it was a big file.
It was.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of the agreements as presented by Matt.
Linda Nass, I make a motion to approve, ratify the Grand Park user agreements.
Motion by Linda, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Jill Doyle. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. John, if you'll take the roll.
Linda Nuss.
Aye.
Bob Bodray. Jill Doyle.
Aye.
Doug Holtz.
Aye.
Joe Plankus.
Aye. Okay, motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is the Tree Park RFP Committee. Linda and I reviewed those. We've had a lot of very good questions that have gone back and forth between commission members and Cam, and well as John Rogers, who has submitted a summary of those questions. I guess maybe, John, I'll turn it over to you first to make your comments, or if you feel it's more appropriate, Cam, for you to go first, that's fine.
Sure, just contextually, of course, Redevelopment Commission has published an RFP under statute, Indiana Code 523 for a public-private partnership operating agreement for a tree park amenity at Grand Park. So we've ensured that we publish that in periodicals of general circulation. I know there were responses received. The process at this point is for the committee to eventually make a recommendation based on the qualifications of the proposing entities as to selection, or one or neither of those proposing parties, to then advance discussions and negotiate a prospective operating agreement for that tree park amenity. And I think that's where we are. I know there's been an initial review. There is a public hearing required by statute at the point that recommendation is actually made to the Redevelopment Commission, that we would notice 10 days in advance of the meeting. So I think we're in that window where we've received 2 proposals. I know there's a committee that consists of Commissioner Nass and President Plankus to review those and eventually make a recommendation. There's been, like you said, good discussion. All of that is, healthy and part of the process. I think we're looking at the next meeting or potentially a special meeting to have that recommendation discussion.
I sent some of the initial questions to the bidders so far, and I'm compiling those right now, and I will get those out to the commission members first thing tomorrow. We have responses. I would also ask that if there are other questions that come up during this conversation, that you send those questions to me so that I could do exactly the same thing and send them to the bidders at the same time, so they have a chance to respond. I'll give them basically 48 hours, and then I will compile everything and send it to you.
Okay, we'll open up for commission members. Let's take Doug first. You're remote here at the moment. Anything you want to add or discuss at this point, Doug?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to ask the questions and the sharing of the questions that we've had. I think that's a healthy exercise. I also appreciate the additional counsel that Cam has provided in regard to this process. And so I look forward to John's mailing tomorrow of all of the questions and the responses from Go Ape and from Tree Runners. So I just look forward to the next meetings to have that discussion. That's all. That's everything I have at this point.
Okay, thank you, Doug. I'd also like to emphasize that point that Doug raises. I think the system that we've asked people to follow on the commission is in sending questions and copying the other commission members at the same time really speeds the process of understanding and knowing what people are inquiring about or asking or want clarification on. So that works very well, certainly with Cam and John responding back to us and then following up in this case with the vendors that have made the quotations or the bids. So Linda, questions, comments that you would like to add at this point?
Well, just understanding this process, so, John, when you get those responses back, you're just going to email them to us. We're not going to have a meeting before May 7th.
No, that'll be a group email to everyone, and then any any questions you have this evening will also email those to me, and I'll send those to the bidders, and and then I'll send that out. That would be Friday.
Okay.
I'll send that back out to everybody Friday. So that'll give everyone a week plus to review them before the proposed meeting on the 7th, which I think we need to get Cam's, how do we do
No, I
that?
think we could certainly meet, Linda, you and I as a committee and review the questions from the input that
Before-
we received from other commission members prior to the 7th.
To the
And we could
7th.
set up a time to do that.
Okay.
Before
That's
we
what
meet
I'm
on
trying
March
to get
7th.
down to, who does what when.
Yep, right.
And then when does the notice have to go out?
The notice would go out 10 days before the public hearing.
And the public hearing is,
It will be on a meeting agenda. Currently, that would be, you have a scheduled meeting for March.
in March.
It would be a matter to consider whether you want to have a special call meeting for that purpose between now and the March meeting.
We
If
are
so,
going, we
we'd
are
notice
going
it.
to have a special meeting on the 7th to discuss the
Okay.
Union Street developer agreement, so that would be, I think, an appropriate time to also, that's within the 10-day window. If that's okay, Cam, then we should also add that to our agenda for that evening.
Great. Well, yeah, I'll make sure the notice gets published in the paper of the
I
public
think,
hearing.
there's a timeline here for both the Union Street folks as well as for the people quoting the tree park. One of the vendors wants to get started this year, so the sooner we get a decision made, if that is the vendor that's selected, then they have the opportunity to get going to generate some funds for the RDC and City of Westfield with the tree park this summer.
So looking at your calendar, Cam, does the 7th allow 10 days before I think our meeting's the 21st, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I think the question would be is, do I have time between now and the 7th to notice 10 days for that agenda? And I believe I do, so long as I get that.
14 days,
Yes.
or 13. Oh, we got a short week.
Today's Tuesday.
Calendar days, 10 calendar days, but there is lead time on publication too.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think I have time to notice that, so plan on notice of a public hearing for the March 7th special meeting.
Okay.
And yes, intentionally, there are
Okay.
only 2 of you on the review committee so that you can meet, that's not a quorum.
Right.
So you can meet to discuss your prospective recommendation to the committee.
Sure, and we'll set up a meeting to, mutually agreeable time to do that, Cam.
Okay,
Okay, Jill, you had some excellent questions on your email.
No, I think it's been a good conversation back and forth, and I appreciate seeing everybody else's questions so we
Yep.
can learn that we're all on the same page, so.
It's an excellent process.
Yeah, I apologize, I won't be here on the 7th, but I'll be out of town, so.
Okay, anything else on Tree Park at this point? Matthew, anything you want to add at this point, sir? Okay, great. Okay, Union Street Developing Agreement is off, so let's go to Grant Park 2021 review.
All righty. Good evening again. Matt Trinian, Director of Grand Park. On the line as well is William Knox from Legacy Sports Group. He will be joining me here in a bit to further discuss this presentation. The intent of this presentation is to overview what occurred in 2021 and then showcase the financials of 2021 and future outlook for the budget of 2022. So here you will find our 2021 recap of some major data that occurred at the campus. So we had a little over 2.6 million visits to the park in 2021. That's inclusive of the full campus. As you go down the list, there's several data points here. One question was brought up today, and Linda, I wanted to respond to that here now. I was able to acquire the Diamond data today to get total numbers of games played and total number of athletes to add here. So total numbers of games played shows on the document here 17,000, but in totality was at 27,960 games total at the facility. As you go down, room nights is almost at 110,000, which has been by far our best year on campus, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. And then the total number of athletes tallied up to 237,766 athletes on the campus in 2021. So overall, a great year, especially coming out of 2020 and the unknowns of what 2020 had for us. Just a tremendous year of us operating, and as you can see, almost a full year of operation days. So we were open just about every day.
John, for the record, show that Bob Beaudry arrived at 5:20 p.m., please.
Will do.
As we go through here, you'll see we've broken out each business section by quarter. So right here is our business development section, denoting by quarters major highlights that have happened in each business unit. So here in the business development unit, Q1, we had a great great avenue to secure the new events in USA Football, National Championship, and then we also had an influx of collegiate soccer come to the facility as we were able to operate at that time. NCAA had a lot of restrictions on COVID policies, and we were able to work with a lot of universities to host those activities. As we move into second quarter, we continued to explore a lot of new opportunities in the non-sporting business realm. And as you can see, it played out a lot of success this year already. But we've started to incorporate a lot of smaller outings and some other unique opportunities at the campus in the non-sporting aspect. Q3, we finalized several 2022 event negotiations. You'll see the NXT there. Next is one of our largest lacrosse users on campus. They bring a lot of events to us annually, have been a tremendous partner of the campus, and we were able to secure them for 4 events annually. And then, again, we did secure the Flag Football National Championship. Q4, we were actually approached by the Mexican national soccer team. I know we spoke about that briefly last year, but it was a great opportunity for us to showcase our facility to the Mexican national team, and I know that they had a great experience at the facility. It didn't play out for them on their field, but the U.S. did take them in the match that they were prepping for. But a great opportunity for us to host a unique opportunity like that. As we go into the marketing and sponsorship piece, I really wanted to highlight Q2 here. We welcomed some new partners to the campus, Meyer being one of our largest. They came on board in 2021 in Q2. In Q3, we were able to partner with IUPUI and their team to sponsor the new entry wall at the event center. So as you enter in, immediately to your right, there's a beautiful display of our campus map and a lot of detailed information in regarding to what's at the campus, and a beautiful display for IUPUI as well. And then in Q4, we were nominated and awarded 3 times by Sports Destination Management for economic impact. So great opportunity for us and to further showcase the facility. As we get into our operations, you'll see some repeats here from some of our business development because our operations team were able to implement a lot of those activities. So again, in Q1, we hosted it's 24 collegiate soccer and lacrosse games. And again, we were able to work with those universities. Each conference had unique COVID protocols that we were able to work with, and the team really stepped up to accommodate all of those guidelines and ensure a safe place for those teams to cooperate and play at. Q2 was one of our more unique times at the campus. We were able to host the first graduation on campus and in the event center, and it was a spectacular event where we were able to host the high school seniors and celebrate them. Bullpen had 11 major events on the diamond side of the campus, and really in that Q2, that's when they really start going. In Q3, we hosted training camp as we traditionally do, and then alongside of that was I already hit on it a few times, that USA Flag Football National Championship, which was a unique event. And over the weekend, I saw an ad that USA Football put out, and there's Grand Park in the ad. So that's being shown now on televisions everywhere. Mm-hmm. And then in Q4, we were able to host the farm show, and what an event that was to see large farm equipment on one field of ours, and boy, does it make you feel small to walk past that equipment. So great opportunities there. Our grounds team, very busy year-round. Traditionally, Q1 and Q4 are more driven by snow and planning processes, but as you can see in Q2 and Q3, a lot of paint, a lot of fertilization, several mows, and this is all being done in-house. And those guys really work hard to ensure that our facility is prepared for all events that are hosted. So another kind of unique opportunity in Q3, we experienced a little bit of a mini drought, and we were covered by local media as to how we were getting through that with our irrigation system. And our grounds manager, Ryan Fisher, was able to speak and share how we were able to share water throughout the 9 ponds in the campus to keep us green when no one else was. And then finally, here, the Research and Development Hub was a huge piece to our 2021. We were able to launch in Q2 and had several companies interested from the onset, and one we continue to work through today. So the launch was just the beginning, and we're continuing to work with several different organizations to better not only their company, but better the facility, and through different partnerships and research opportunities. These two are two awards that were awarded to, the one on the left was awarded to Bullpen Tournaments, and the one on the right was awarded to Indiana Fire Juniors for their events, and Amateur Baseball Championships, and then the Crossroads America Showcase, College Showcase, and again, great economic drivers to the city of Westfield by hosting these two events. So kudos to those two organizations for putting those on, and again, a great example of what our facility is able to bring in. This slide here is just kind of a reminder here that we did partner with Legacy Sports Group, and their responsibilities include the business development, sponsorship, marketing, and the management of the research hub. And so just wanted to kind of showcase that. And as we look here, I know the last time we spoke, we talked about getting an org chart pulled together to ensure that kind of we knew who ticked and tied where. So Legacy Sports Group is denoted in kind of the red and orange there. So they have a business development manager, a marketing manager, and a sponsorship manager on full time that we work with daily. And then they have a data collection and hub person that's responsible, more in a part-time capacity, but she does a tremendous job in working with those clients. In the green, you see all of our major, I'd say managers for the campus. I spoke a little bit about it at our last meeting, but really have 4 core groups that help run the park, and it's client services, grounds, maintenance, and operations. So those are my managers there in the green, with all of the subsequent roll up from the assistant positions up to those manager levels. So that's as we sit today. Those are the those are the roles that have been filled, and we continue to work through finding the best practice to manage the complex. From this point, I'm going to flip it over to William Knox. I will drive the presentation, but William will report on the 2021 historical financial overview, and then give us a look at the budget that he helped create for 2022.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize I cannot be in person this evening, but this was a very important presentation, so I want to make sure that I was available to assist Matt as we went through the financial review. As of January 1, he is in full control of a budget that I created. So while he has all the oversight, I have all the historical knowledge, and I've tried to work with him along the way, but he's definitely picked up on all of the things that are key for 22, which we'll talk a little bit about at the end of this presentation. This is more so to talk about 2021. Matt has already referenced this, but as you were able to look through the document, you will know 2021 was another great year for the campus. That's for a multitude of reasons, which we'll kind of go through as we go through some of the slides. Matt, if you could advance. Oh, no, sorry, you're already on the slide. I'm looking at my other side. So the historical overview, you guys have seen this a few times. We've added 2021 to this document to show budget. I'm sorry, not budget. This is actuals for 2021. So this was what we brought in and what we spent. I'll talk to you a little bit about, once we go to the charts, how these numbers came together. But just from this chart, you could see dating back to 2015, how we've really grown and matured as a campus as we've kind of gone through the years. You can go ahead and advance, Matt. So this next slide is another representation of our cash flow. This just shows historically the cash flow since dating back to 2014, all the way through the end of the year 2021. And you could see in the early days, sometimes, and I think I've referenced this before in other presentations, we dipped a little bit below the zero for a brief period of time, but we also had a lot of significant ups and downs. A lot of that was related to how we were receiving income at that time. For those of you who were not aware, early on in our existence, when we opened the indoor building, we had a contractual relationship with Indiana Soccer, and they paid us twice a year. And those were big chunks of money that we received from them. So that's where you can see some of those ups and downs in the budget lines there. As we transition, really looking at midway through 2020, we kind of started to get our groove, and you can kind of see the dips are going away, and we're getting a little more consistent in the way that we bring in our revenue and kind of how we dispense it. So that's very intentional. I think we've done a really good job of working with our clients to get them on a payment schedule such that it helps with our cash flow, but also gives them a little flexibility as a lot of them commit significant dollars to our coffers for their events. You can go ahead and advance, Matt. So as we look at 2021 and the budget versus actuals, you can kind of see that obviously for certain categories, we brought in more than we anticipated, and others not as much. A lot of that was due to how the budget was put together in 2021. And you'll continue to hear me reference this. I'm sure you'll hear Matt talk about it a little bit when he starts his budget process. Due to the way we have to put the budget together and the timeline in which we have to do it, it's very difficult for us to account for all the things that will happen in a given year. We start in earnest, we start the budget process in July. And as you guys know, get to a point where hopefully by October, we've got everything nailed down. Well, at that point in time, we're still securing business for the following year. We're still evaluating opportunities to spend and a whole host of other things. Particularly for 2021, what we found is obviously in 2020, a pandemic year, it was very difficult for organizations to commit to their activity. So what we started to see was a lot of those deposits and early payments that were supposed to come in 21 got pushed to 22. So some of the increase is due to the nature of kind of how the money came in, but also we grew our book of business for 22. So I'm pretty proud of the team that was able to come together from that standpoint. All of the others are pretty much in line. We did a phenomenal job with our hotel commissions, which we'll talk, Matt already alluded to that. We'll talk about that here in a minute when we get to a future slide. Everything else is pretty much in line with what we expected. We were really hopeful that we would do a few more non-sporting events in 21. As you can see from the venue rent, we budgeted a little higher. But because of some of the commitments from the sporting activities, we kind of go back and forth on some of those. So all in all, a really good year. You can go ahead and advance, Matt. This just also outlines the expenses. So as you can see from this, some of the budgeted expenses were much lower than the actual expenses were much lower than what we budget. And other instances, they were much higher. Let's look at services as an example. When we put the 2021 budget together, we were not at that point aware that we would also be realigning our relationship with bullpen tournaments. As you guys know, we've done that, and now we've kind of reverted back to our original process by way of us receiving our share of gate revenues and apparel. But we also had to, we signed a management agreement with them to perform all of the agronomy and grounds work for the campus. So that number comes out of services. So that number is kind of out of whack because we did not account for those expenses. Similarly, on the revenue side, I should have pointed to this when we were on the previous slide. The gate revenue, as you can see, where are we at here? Our event tickets revenue is significantly higher than what we budgeted. That's also due to the bullpen relationship. We started to receipt those dollars in, and we had not accounted for those in the budget. So that is what accounts for most of the discrepancies on those two line items. You can go ahead and advance. So this is just, these views, I like to see these views. I've been working with Matt a lot on the budgeting process. I know that you guys are working to develop a new system by which he will use to show him the data related to our financials. These graphs here I pulled from Domo, which was the system we've used historically. And it really just shows us, this is 2021 as a whole, and it shows our cash flow and kind of how we traverse through the year. And then Matt, you can advance again. This one here shows the fourth quarter. So I like to just see these and take a look at them quarter by quarter or year over year to kind of see, are we aligned with where we should be? And based off of our payment schedules, did the money come in as we anticipated? So these are good views, and I'm sure Matt will have his own tools to use as he looks to create the 2023 budget. So we've talked a little bit about hotel room nights. Matt alluded to this, and similarly to the conversation we had about bullpen, the growth in room nights, we eclipsed 100,000 room nights this year. Historically, we've been somewhere anywhere around 75,000 to 85,000, somewhere in those windows. We eclipsed that number significantly last year due to the relationship that Bullpen has with Championship Park in Kokomo. So it's estimated that approximately 20,000 of the room nights that were generated this year under the Grand Park agreement were solely due to that extension of the Championship Park arrangement. So while I know there was a lot of discussion about should we allow them to do this and how does it come together, it's truly started to prove out to be exactly what we thought it would be. They've used that complex as an extension of what they do at Grand Park. And by definition, it's helped both of us continue to grow. So I anticipate that continuing to grow, in conversations that Matt and I have had with the gentleman over at Bullpen. They have already sold out their season for this year. Similarly, we are kind of working on remnant space that we have available on the field sports side. So all indications are that this year will be another really good year for the park. And as we look at the 22 budget, again, this is where I started. I kind of crafted this budget. Matt, as we're going through the transition, I did bring Matt in on the tail end, but by that time, the budget was pretty much put together. So this is a stretch year for us. We, if you went back to the first slide, which we don't have to, Matt, I'll quote the numbers. In 2021, we pulled in $6.1 million. As I referenced, a portion of that was due to some payments that came in 22 that typically would have come in 21 that typically would have come in 20. So we're stretching ourselves a little bit, and we're going to find another $400,000 worth of revenue. But the big shocker is the expense side. So historically, we've never, and I'm looking back at my historical numbers here, we've never spent more or budgeted more than about $4.5 million in expenses. And as you can see from this budget for 2022, we have $5.5 million. This is a spending year, is what I've told Matt. And obviously you guys were able to see the budget on the front end, but we're in our 9th season. The campus is starting to show its age. There are many items that we need to address from a physical plant standpoint, but also from a capital improvement standpoint. So we've allocated money within the budget to do those things as long as the revenue comes in. So my task will be to continue to work with Matt on looking at the numbers as they come in to get a good understanding of when we would feel comfortable expensing some of the dollars that we've allocated within this budget. Some things he's going to have to do sooner than later. We're also working to finish up the capital plan that will also dovetail into kind of how this spend looks. But this just gives you a base understanding of why those numbers are so high in 22. And I believe that is the last slide. And I will pause and allow any questions for myself or Matt.
Okay, any questions from commission members? Let's start with Doug first.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Matt and William, thank you very much for the presentation. thank you also for sharing it early so that we could study it and go through and take a look at it. One question I have, one of the things that you mentioned earlier in the presentation had to do with the non-sports events, where you're trying to build that up to both build revenue, but also trying to even out the revenue flow, which I'm sure we applaud that. One of the questions that we had earlier, or one of the points of discussion that we had last year, had to do with the food service quality at the park. And I'm wondering if you could give us any idea, any status update on your work in that area.
Yeah, so in hosting the Gaylor event in January of this year, we got feedback from them shortly thereafter, and that was a point of discussion, one of which that we worked closely with the provider in Westfield Restaurant Group, taking those comments and working diligently with them to try and figure out the best course of action for next best steps to better improve not only the large catering of those non-sporting events, but also, I've mentioned this to a few, but catering goes much beyond those large events. Every weekend, those staffs of those events are looking for food. They're looking for some sort of, how do we benefit? How do we further grow our staff? How do we even attract talent to work these events? And a lot of times it's college students looking for that food voucher to get another source of food. So that is something that we work closely with Westfield Restaurant Group to better that piece, and I know that's something that we continue to work on a daily with them.
Okay. Are we still going to continue with that group, or are we looking at another group?
Yeah, we are continuing with them as is for now because of the contractual agreement with them, and that's something that, again, I've worked with several members of that organization to better that response to, again, not damage some of the reputation that we have here on campus.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay, Jill, any questions?
I don't. Thank you for the detailed presentation.
Yeah. Bob? Linda?
I was just gonna say, I think you told us before you get surveys. So last year, based on what you've just shown us, anything else showing up in surveys that people are saying we need to do differently, or what they like, what they maybe don't?
Yeah, I know we get a lot of positive feedback in regard to our ride assistance program that Westfield Welcome puts on in regards to helping people get from parking lot to field. Over 400 acres, it's a large, obviously large campus to get from A to B. A lot of other feedback that we get is in regards to, hey, you guys might want to look at doing this in the future in regards to facility upgrades. Everyone's looking for that next thing that we're doing. So that goes into our capital plan as far as how we want to incorporate some of those new ideas into the campus. Another one is just a lot of excitement around, hey, this place is great. We get a lot of positive feedback in regards to just how nice the facility is, how great the playing fields are, and that's a lot of the comment we get back.
Do we get separate surveys back, like during Colts training camp?
So we do
The
accrue those
fencing.
over time period. Honestly, to date, we haven't gotten much from Colts training camp from those visitors. The few that we have, we've collected and kept, and we have them broken out by kind of time of year, and one in which the bulk of the surveys are with the event directors themselves, but we do have the questionnaire out there for any visitor to respond as they feel fit.
Great. And my other question was, I noticed you're doing multiple events, events concurrently. How is that working? Is it what you planned? Are you having to make adjustments? Because I've even been out there when there's several things going on.
Yeah, it's definitely a different operating model than just one user utilizing the full campus or utilizing the larger section of the campus. Utilization is important to us. We want to make sure that the campus is full. Working with individual clients, we staff up to ensure that we have the capabilities to adapt to those various users. But we found it to be, for the most part, relatively smooth. There's always different kinks with each event, has its own kind of differences in how they operate, but our ability to staff up for those events and have multiple staff members on site to accommodate those events has proven to be a great model for us.
And like with the indoor facility, I know we talked last year of trying to use that cafeteria more and renting it out more. I know I was up there at a meeting and there was a great tournament going on, soccer tournament with kids from all over the place. But sometimes during the meeting that they were recording, all you could hear was all the soccer kids screaming and yelling. You could tell there was a score. So I don't, is there any way of closing off that doorway?
Yeah, we can definitely look into that. I know we've also looked at the different utilization of that space, given that it is not used as much as a cafeteria as we originally would have liked it to. So that, again, that's another capital project that we're looking into in regards to best utilizing that space and outfitting it for potential additional conference room space, as it has been widely used as of the last few years.
Yeah.
It's proven to be a great gathering location, and I think, William would echo this. A lot of our clients are looking for more space and in that meeting realm. We've definitely outfitted a few areas in our campus to accommodate, 50 to 100, but once you eclipse that 100 mark, it gets a little tight in some of those spaces. So how do we accommodate that 250-ish mark? And that's one of the areas that we've identified as a great location for additional meeting space.
Great. Now, did you go to the Texas meetings with William last year?
I wasn't able to
Does
attend.
William have a report on that at some point?
Yes, so I can definitely share some details about that maybe at our next meeting. We did have very fruitful conversations with many organizations while we were there. Hamilton County is actually looking to conduct a study. It's called the BEST task force that they put together, and it's largely in part due to the conversations we had during that conference with individuals that have collaboratively come together as a community to do this sport and entertainment concept. So I can definitely share more during our next call when I'm our meeting when I'm in person.
That'd be great. Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay, I do have one question, Matthew. On one of the slides you showed, there were 25 companies that were initially interested in the hub concept that you had developed. Where does that stand? I mean, I'm thinking 25 companies, where are you going to put them all?
Yeah.
If they were all to say, hey, I'd like to get so much space, how do you accommodate that and kind of what's going on going forward?
Yeah, based on the briefings that I've had, essentially we are at about 6 to 8 companies that we're working with right now, and a lot of them are not asking for office space to date. They're more or less looking to work with us from that human capital aspect of, you guys have all these people coming, how do we work to further development our product or software within that scope? So we've worked with those companies to secure different ways to test market those items.
Okay, good. Jill,
I
go
did
ahead.
think of one other question. Piggybacking on Linda's question about growing the concurrent events on the campus, are you getting any feedback from the internal other city operations that are impacted by that, especially like public safety? And has that caused any issues or concerns?
So in regards to the use of space, we've worked with Westfield Welcome, Police, Fire, and a few other departments to host various outings. Public Works, just about every group within the city has utilized the space in some fashion, whether it be a public hearing or just an internal meeting. To date, we've heard great feedback around that cafeteria space as being a great avenue to host those meetings, especially those public hearings, because it's a bit larger of a space. A lot of the internal meetings we have adequate space to host. So overall, I would say great feedback. Nothing too significant in regards to needing to change the space as of yet, but still plays into the evaluation of how we could further utilize that.
Okay, I think my question, sorry, I might not have phrased that well. Is it putting any impact or strain on them when you have multiple events going on there and more visitors?
Gotcha.
Creating more activity for them to come out to the campus, or be having more people on their staff on call, or whatever they have to do to staff?
In regards to other units
yes,
of the,
yes.
so as of today, I know when working with public safety, we work with them traditionally to get them the outlook of what's coming. I know in working with police specifically, they do a regular route of Grand Park specifically to ensure that it's a safe facility. Along with public safety in the fire department, We make sure that they're aware of all those large events so that they know that, hey, they might be getting a few more runs because of activity at Grant Park. The Public Works Department has been tremendous throughout this winter season in helping make sure that all the routes in and out of Grant Park are well taken care of for all of those visitors. So yeah, yes, we all work together, but I'm not sure that there's a significant uptick in those city departments because of the resulting activity. It's more or less an awareness of this is what's going on, and there might be an additional call here or there, but nothing of great significance.
Is it not like we have to hire extra security or people to help?
Mike, turn your mic on. That's right.
Do we have to hire extra people or after-hours police or security or anything like that for any of the type events we have?
Yeah, we evaluate that on an event-by-event
Right,
situation.
in the contract.
Correct. And for those events specifically, we recommend or encourage that a public safety officer is here for that event. And just about every time that event obliges and they understand why we would do that. And that expense is passed directly to that event.
To
That is
them.
not an expense that the city takes on.
Right.
It's paid directly out to those individuals.
But it's worked out the way it's set up in those user
Absolutely.
agreements and all, right?
Absolutely.
Very good.
It's been great.
Yeah, great.
Okay, I don't have any more questions. John or Cam or Jeremy, anything you want to add for the good of the order here? I think you guys are good. Okay, very good. Matt and William, thank you for the update. Very informative, very detailed. Appreciate getting the information ahead of time so we can look at it and prepare any questions we may have. Okay, any additional business before the commission? John, Cam? Okay, so we'll move forward with our legal announcements and all the things that we need to do for the 7th. Okay, we're good for that then. Okay, anything else from the other commission members?
None here.
Okay, if not, meeting is adjourned.